you need to go out, defend the city or defend something, and you say, well, but my kids, and who's going to take care of them, and who's going to do that, and so then you become fearful, and it causes you to be a coward when there's actually something more pressing, more important that you need to go and fulfill. So in that sense, they can be a distraction. And your wealth can be that too, right? You can say, well, I have these businesses, I can't just go out and do these things, and who's going to watch my business for me? I can't go to Hajj, who's going to watch my business for me? They'll steal, they'll do this. So even that source of wealth where he has the means to go to Hajj, but he decides not to because he can't trust anybody to watch over it, whether that's true or not. So that means that they're a fitna in the sense that now your heart becomes distracted from what's more important. So then the sadaqah and the sawm and these things, they can be a means by which to expiate that distraction of the heart. It doesn't relieve you from doing things you have to do. So if you never go to Hajj and you just say, well, I prayed and gave some sadaqah, that will, no, it doesn't expiate it because it's considered a debt in that regard. But if you have this fitna of distraction, so you're trying to fulfill those rights, but nevertheless you're distracted, then the regular acts of piety are a means by which to expiate that. So the next part of the hadith, actually, it's not included in Ibn Abi Jamrah's commentary, but it has a historical precedent that maybe I think we'll leave till next time. So we have a few minutes before Maghrib that we'll leave to question. I think next week is our last week, inshallah, 22nd. So hopefully we'll get a couple more. We'll get close to the 40 that we had originally planned for, inshallah. Yes?
Just a quick question from the previous hadith. The prayer about standing or sitting, the one related by Hassan. Is it in Ibn Jamrah's commentary that he mentions about the Qibla? Because just in our commentary, it just mentions about the standing or sitting. It doesn't mention about facing the Qibla.
I don't understand. It says, تدور معها, you change direction with it so you can face the Qibla. ما لم تشق على أصحابك, assuming that your companions can keep up with you. But if they can't, then you don't do that. You can just sit down and you don't have to change direction. So only if you're physically able to do that, you don't get seasick and you can move with it, then that's what that's referring to. Is that what you meant? Or?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out the context of the Qibla, because I just wasn't seeing it in the actual hadith.
It doesn't say it explicitly, that's true, but it's understood تدور معها, that you're moving with it to face the Qibla. Anyone else? There's no expiation for something that's not required of you. Expiation only happens when there's something required of you and either you don't do it right or you're remiss or something like that. But if it's not required because of someone who doesn't have the means to go to Hajj and never goes, there's nothing on them. Perform it physically, you mean, or mentally? Yeah, they're not mukallaf anymore. They're not held responsible for that anymore if they don't have the means by which to do it. And unlike Hajj, where someone can do a Hajj for someone else who didn't go, to do prayers for someone else, because that's an individual obligation that's connected with the person themselves. Whereas Hajj, there's the element of you actually having the financial means to do it. So you can do sadaqat, charity in someone else's name, or Hajj in someone else's name, but like you can't fast for someone else or pray for someone else to do their prayers for them, because that's something that's, has no connection with, there's no niyaba, there's no someone doing it on your behalf, because the nature of it itself. But you could do something else, if someone wants to establish a sadaqah jariyah or something like that. But it's not required, because they're not held responsible for that.
What about for one's own, like suppose you just, at a point in time when you weren't serious and you became serious about your prayers, or you're more like, on top of it, would there be some kind of expiation for these prayers or prayers done incorrectly, or would it just be like doing them over again?
No, when we say incorrectly, means incorrect to the extent where they were not valid, and that's a whole other thing. But assuming that that's not the case, then one just works forward now on what they need to do ahead of them. And I couldn't tell someone to do all those over again. I mean, there have been people who've kind of, after they've made a repentance, even though they used to pray, they want to still do the ones over. That's an individual thing, but it's not something that's a ruling that can apply to everybody. It's not necessary. Yes.
So if somebody can do the Hajj for the person who didn't do and passed away, whether he had means to perform the Hajj or whether he did not have the means to do the Hajj. So in both the cases, somebody else can perform the Hajj on the
Assuming they've done their own already. They've done their own fard Hajj, then they can do it for someone else. طيب جزاكم الله خير. 1 week left inshallah, so hopefully we'll get to that next week. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يوفقنا جميعا لطاعته وطاعة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وأن يلهمنا الرشد والصواب، وأن ينور قلوبنا بالإيمان والإسلام والإحسان، وأن يفرج عن المسلمين في كل مكان. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين.